All right, and we're rolling. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Schulich Leaders Talk podcast. My name is Sanjit Samanta. I'm a first year here at the University of Toronto, intending to major in Actuarial Science and Statistics.
And I'm Daniel. I'm a fourth year computer science student here at the University of Toronto, specializing in artificial intelligence and computer vision.
It's awesome. Now, Daniel, I know what we're both here for, and that is to talk about the Data Bowl. Now, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Data Bowl with NFL and how that happened?
Sure. So one thing kind of parallel to my studies in computer science that I've really focused on for a few years now is sports analytics. So I'm part of a sports analytics club here at the University of Toronto, sports analytics student group that does basically a bunch of research across a variety of sports, football, hockey, basketball.
Wow.
And one of the things we try to get involved with every year is what's known as the Big Data Bowl,
Right.
which is kind of the largest sports analytics hackathon in the world. And it's this annual competition, happens once a year, typically attracts around 300 to 400 participants from all over the world. And kind of like the big attraction to it is, it's run by the NFL. They give a lot of really high quality data. And then there's lots of sponsors as well that kind of boost up the cash prizes. So it ends up being this kind of big, sort of prestigious kind of competition.
And it's pretty awesome because I think it's pretty much made you like a local legend amongst the U of T Schulich leaders. Because I always hear about, Daniel, he won this like amazing Data Bowl. Tell me, where were you when you actually won this Data Bowl?
Yeah, so I mean,
when it was first like announced to you that you were the winner.
Yeah, so like how it kind of works is there's two stages of the competition. At first, you submit like this research paper, and then so all 400 participants or so submit this research paper, and then it gets cut down to 8 finalists who get to go to the draft combine in Indianapolis and present to NFL executives, present all the work. So that's kind of like the highlight of the competition. Winning it is one thing, but then awesome. Like really everyone tries to make the finals.
And so how many people?
So there's 3 of us.
Nice.
And we are lucky enough to be named finalists. We had the opportunity to go down to Indianapolis. So yeah, I was just in class one day. I think it was so it's that like 10-minute gap in between
before the class,
take a break, right?
Get the 10-minute, the buffer.
When the results came in. So
wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. All 3 of us, 2 of my team members and myself were kind of watching the results to wait and see what happened. So it's really exciting for us. And then, I guess just to give a little bit more background too on the competition, it's exciting for like competitors like myself, but it's also exciting for the NFL as a whole and also fans too.
Right.
Virtually every NFL team now has analytics teams, but this competition kind of serves as a way for the league and these teams to gain access to like kind of new cutting edge ideas, new cutting edge research.
And that's the point. Like I think nowadays, especially the advancement and the need for innovation in like data analytics and it entering sports, just intersecting with it and making these amazing things is what we need, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's awesome. And it's interesting because you said you work with a team of 3. When you were working with your team, how did you go about kind of delegating the work? Who did what?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mix on a project like this, where we're really just focused on trying to create the best sort of framework and analytical system that we can.
Yeah.
We're all kind of working on the modeling. Where I guess it kind of branches out is into like when we go to prepare the research report and the visualizations and all that. Mm-hmm. One of the big things with any kind of like research project, I think, is like trying to really focus on building like a high quality product from your research. Right. And that was like a really big focus of ours when we were building this. And I think it applies to really any kind of research you do, not only in sports, anywhere. Kind of taking like everything you've worked on and built and encapsulating into this one kind of final product that both looks really good, is easy to use, And that's kind of what we were able to do successfully, I think. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I know, speaking of the data bowl, of course, there's this background of data science in general. And so that data bowl that you won was the data bowl 2023. Let's talk about our current initiatives and what we're up to.
Sure.
Now, I can start just to, change it up. So very recently, as a first-year Schulich leader, I've had the opportunity to I'm very grateful for the opportunity to get to work with third-year Alexander Vicol, who is a Schulich leader at McMaster, and Raphael Kelly, who's a second-year Schulich leader at the University of British Columbia. And I've gotten the chance to work with them with STEM Fellowship, which is what I was telling you about yesterday when we were planning out this podcast. And so STEM Fellowship is this nonprofit that is dedicated to giving youth and in general, just like underprivileged youth, the equitable access and opportunity to data science competitions and gaining insights and tools in data science, which is honestly something, as I just graduated in high school, as a person that just graduated, this was an opportunity that I wish I had. And so I'm very glad that I'm able to be a part of this and help other people kind of achieve their dreams.
Yeah.
And so in general, yeah, do you have any questions?
That's really amazing. Yeah, no, like, what do you see then as like kind of like the biggest sort of barrier then to data science? Is it education? Is it the resource aspect? And like, where does kind of the STEM fellowship fit into all of that?
That's a great question. I think 100% it has to be education and access to these resources. One big thing that I advocated for in high school was helping with financial literacy, because I do strongly believe that having good, strong financial literacy is imperative to success in this modern world, right? Probably to actually any world in time, I'd say. But especially now, it's a prevalent issue. And that is something that education, public education especially, is not neglecting, but it's not something that it has fully addressed yet. And they're doing that right now through elective courses. But the truth is, students are still very often kind of left high and dry with these expectations of learning how to navigate the world with analytics and data science, like we were talking about, but they don't really get the resources. And so STEM Fellowship's place in that is being a nonprofit. And also it has the support of the Canadian government, which is cool, as well as UNESCO. And so there's a lot of people that are backing up STEM Fellowship in its mission to make these resources and these challenges more equitable and more accessible for everyone.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
That's a good question.
So then, like, what has it been like kind of being able to share your passion then with kind of the next generation of potential data scientists?
It's been absolutely great. So at the point that when you're helping host this kind of a challenge, you do play a role in actually teaching and working with the kids and doing these workshops. And so at the point that I was teaching about like linear regression and statistics, I had not actually taken stats in university at that point. So it really motivated me to go ahead and actually learn all these concepts ahead of time to then go back and teach these students. And so for me, I think the role has been amazing. In terms of how we organize ourselves, we have 3 Schulich leaders currently operating with it. So a lot, Alexander is my boss, and Raphael is parallel to me, so him and I work together on the same level. And so Alex has been really pivotal in hosting the competition. That is his job. And me and Raphael played, I think, a very pivotal part in helping him do that role. And so for us, it's been organizing the Google Classroom. It says internet connection's unstable. It's okay. A lot of it has been organizing the Google Classroom, communicating with students, teaching these lectures and these lessons, and in general, giving them more resources to go and pursue their curiosities and learn more about data science than we could teach them in like one sitting.
Right.
So that's definitely it's been awesome.
And it's amazing it's 3 Schulich leaders that you're getting to work with. So like, did you connect through the Schulich network initially with this? Or?
That's an awesome question. I think something that the podcast will benefit from is yes. I think the way I met Alex was through the SL network, which was on Discord. Discord opportunities channel is a blessing. It is an absolute blessing, and especially for first years and maybe future first years that watch this next year, yeah, you should definitely use the Discord, because the channel there is a very quick way to meeting and mingling with other.
And if there's other Schulich leaders who want to try to get involved with STEM fellowship, what's the best way for?
Yeah, I think for SLs that are interested in getting involved in this and really any other kind of nonprofit work or opportunities, keep an eye out on the channel. But on top of that, Alexander did send a message a couple of months ago. So if you just scroll up in the channel, you should see it. He has his email included, and you can see the website, check it out. There's a lot to learn and a lot to do.
Amazing.
Good question.
And is the STEM fellowship, is it across Canada type of thing, or
Actually,
is
it's
it
across the world.
across the world?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it is a Canadian nonprofit, but the competition ends up getting students from literally everywhere.
Wow,
Like
okay.
I was working on registrations and I actually saw students from like Romania, students from like Peru,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
just like, where did you guys even hear about this? Like this
Yeah.
is it's awesome that you guys did. And so it's been great working with that because I think STEM at this day and age really needs to adopt that international lens because STEM already is becoming a very attractive set of fields.
Right.
And for it to
Right.
gain and really progress through an individual and international lens is the next big step, I think. So it's really awesome what's going on here.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Well, now I know the Big Data Bowl 2023 was extremely successful for you. Tell me about Big Data Bowl 2024.
Yeah, so I mean, we decided to run it back this year again. Partially, we obviously want to win, but it's also just the kind of career path that for myself and my 3 group members this year, it's something I think we all want to keep pursuing. So it's just a really great opportunity to kind of apply like what I learned in school to a passion of mine, which is sports. So every year with the Big Data Bowl, it's a different topic. So initially, the first year we were looking at evaluating offensive and defensive linemen. So basically, looking at how much pressure they got on the quarterback and how much pressure a defensive or an offensive line is able to prevent on a quarterback. And this year it's a little bit different. This year we're looking at tackling specifically. And so it's cool with both of these competitions. One thing in sports right now, we're seeing it everywhere in virtually all fields related to AI, is like this increased access to data, right? Data is really the key enabler that allows us to get all of these kind of cool new insights and build out these cool new metrics. And so with sports, one of the kind of new forms of data is called player tracking data. So it's every player's X and Y coordinate throughout a game. So you know exactly where they are, how quickly they're moving, all of that. And that's powerful because traditionally in sports analytics, we used to look at outcomes of plays, what happened at the end of the play. Now with player tracking data, we're able to look at what happens throughout a play. Wow. So there's players who might make a lot of catches, might get a lot of sacks, make a lot of tackles. And then there's others that help their team out in different ways, like just based on the space they occupy on the field, or the kind of movements they cause other players to make.
Right.
So there's value we want to figure out how to capture with this player tracking data. So yeah, I mean, this year evaluating tackles in football, tackling is sort of a tricky thing to evaluate. In sports, a lot of times it comes down to credit assignment. The problem of which players to assign credit to. Like there's one player who's responsible for the tackle, but then there's 5 other players who force the runner to make a different pass. So it's a tricky problem, like any other field in AI right now, whether it's language, vision. We have a lot of data, but it's just a matter of figuring out how to best kind of analyze that data. And this year, our approach was a little bit different to last year. Last year, we kind of picked a pretty basic analytical system. This year, we sort of took a bit of a moonshot approach and said, we're going to take the latest and greatest advancements from everywhere else in AI, and we're going to apply it to sports to build something that really people have never seen before. And so what we've kind of come up with is this framework for processing this player tracking data. And then basically doing this thing called counterfactual analysis, which is looking at what if this player wasn't there on a play, or what if they moved in a different direction, kind of thing. So looking at these what ifs to then try and assign credit. And then beyond that, we also kind of introduced, again, taking from other fields in AI, this idea of attention is really big. You've probably heard of it, relating to like large language models and ChatGPT.
Right. Generative AI. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's this kind of this one technology that's kind of powered everything.
Sure.
We're now trying to apply it to sports.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's been pretty cool. We submitted our paper recently, and then now we're waiting to see.
Well, actually, one point you mentioned that I found super interesting. So you're talking about you called it what? The counterfactual circumstance?
Counterfactual analysis.
Counterfactual analysis, right? Which is what ifs, looking at alternative movements they could have made. Do you think that could be used in the future for better plays? That's what they're called, right? Better plays, better strategies?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Strategy is like a huge part of sports analytics. Like a lot of times people think of just like the player analysis, evaluating players, but such a big part of sports analytics is building out new strategies for teams to use. And when coaches begin to look at sports analytics, that's what gets them excited the most. It's like we've had scouts for so many years now.
Right.
They can tell us who the best players are. Really kind of that next big advancement is on the strategy side and trying to figure out what strategies should a team employ in order to best counter another team.
That's impressive. So do you feel like the data analytical tools that you developed in 2023 were helpful in your development of the tools in 2024?
Somewhat. It's also a bit different, but I mean, the biggest thing is like with any of these advancements, or with any of these kind of new tools, it's different from what you like learn in school.
Sure.
But at the same time, we consistently find ourselves applying everything we learn in class, all the problem solving skills.
Right.
So on paper, it might look advanced what we're kind of trying to do, but it's really just built off of everything we've kind of, as a group, we've kind of picked up on and learned throughout the past several years. Awesome. And I imagine it's that way with any kind of research. Really, it all kind of looks advanced, but we're all doing advanced things in our programs, and with that kind of background, there's a lot of really incredible stuff that you can do, even as an undergrad right now, trying to build out research. Yeah,
that's the interesting thing, right? Is like with innovation in general, I think it's awesome that we're talking about innovation as SLs, is that the frontier of any science, of any industry, of anything is not pushed like this at a single time. It's little step by little step.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like you are actively contributing to that push on the frontier of data analytics in sports?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. And I think like one of the really valuable kind of key skills that has helped enable like the projects I've done in sports analytics, like this kind of entrepreneurial mindset. We hear about it all the time. At the Schulich conferences, people on the podcast have discussed it.
For better.
It's kind of this big theme within the Schulich network, having that entrepreneurial mindset to go out and build new things.
That drive, 100%.
And I think that's so important. And it's definitely something that's, I think, has helped me really, win these kind of competitions. The idea of, with this research, focusing on building a product, driving value for our end users, which in our case could be fans, it could be coaches.
Teams in general.
Yeah, and I honestly find myself all the time just going back to quotes that speakers have had at our conferences. There's been a few bangers that really stuck with me. So
are there any that you want to share?
Yeah, well, it's one from this year, but I think Harley Finkelstein had a great quote from this year, kind of talking about building software in general, but I think it applies to research too. Is the best companies build the greatest piece of software in their field and commercialize the heck out of it, right? And
cool. Yeah,
that is really, I think, what, if I look back on these physics competitions, we've built incredibly high quality analytics pipelines.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, we've really prioritized trying to build out things that are valuable for teams and for fans, kind of focusing on that end product, the commercialization aspect.
Right.
How do we take our research and bring it to market within the next 6 months, kind of thing.
All the while you're hitting all of those spots, right? You're hitting innovation, entrepreneurialism, charisma, the way you guys present yourselves, and actually perform at these data analytic bowls. So that's awesome. Yeah. And I think it actually perfectly segues too, because our next point here, talking point at least, is the intersection between athletics, data analytics, data science, and what that looks like for teams and for industry. So you are the expert here, I think, between you and me. How do you think the industry, I'll call it, of sports and athletics will continue to evolve with data science moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting, and I think it's exciting also in sports to see like just kind of like the diversity of backgrounds coming into the field. It's not just pure statisticians that are making strides in sports analytics now. It's everyone from like biomechanics is so big. So like people with a kinesiology background or kind of like that more biology side of things. There's tons of opportunity there. And then even kind of on a business side related to what you're doing, accounting principles, people are really starting to look at that now in sports with contract valuations, trying to determine what players are worth.
Exactly.
So those kind of those kind of advanced accounting principles really come into play in sports. Yeah. So sports is like really kind of evolving into this field that's now drawing upon all these other subjects to really like to optimize everything that these teams do. Yeah,
that is really cool. I think in general, like, and I think this was one of the, if you can declare like a passion sentence or like something that really inspired this podcast in particular, was many people don't associate data science with something like sports. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's changing? And do you think it's a good thing that that's changing?
I think it is, yeah. I think it definitely kind of brings like new mindsets, new ideas into the game, and it's good for really everyone involved. Good for players and good for coaches too. Player safety, we didn't discuss it at all really yet, but it's another big area that's kind of being influenced by sports.
Let's talk about that.
And again, that's the type of field where people from any background can make an impact. Just this year in the Big Data Bowl, there's a number of papers looking at how we can apply physics to tackling. So anyone from like an engineering background, physics background, can really make a big impact. In that kind of way.
And do you think it's happening in other sports as well? Like, I'm assuming with football, I really like how you explained how it moved from just looking at the outcome of the play to the entire movement throughout the play. It kind of makes me think, are you guys using like a 2D Euclidean space?
Yeah, exactly.
So you could probably apply that to soccer, the other football, or basketball, or any of those kind of sports that work on a court. Do you think that's happening? Like, have you seen that happening?
Absolutely, yeah. It's happening across really every sport. Every sport has this tracking data now. So I mean, there are opportunities for people in whatever sport you're interested: hockey, basketball, football, soccer. I mean, the list goes on and on. Tennis, golf, all of these sports have data now, and so there's ways that we can apply all of our kind of science and mathematical knowledge to better understand the game.
And make it a better game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Make it a better game. Yeah. That's a quote.
Make it a better game.
All right. Well, I think that leads us very nicely to the segue, which is we've talked about the now. Let's talk about the future, and particularly with our degrees, because we are both getting very fascinating but also diverse degrees. Mm-hmm. How do you plan on applying that in your future?
I mean, I guess like one exciting part is that I don't really know yet.
That's awesome.
Sports is definitely an area that I want to keep pursuing, but entrepreneurship is definitely something that I think really interests me. So yeah, I mean, curious to hear from you.
Yeah, I see. That's the interesting thing is like, you know how you're talking about sports drawing different degrees and different careers into the same place. Yeah, I think I'm being drawn into a very similar state as well, even though we have different degrees, right? I'm going into Actuarial Science and Statistics. And for me, I think algorithmic science and really looking at the nitty-gritty structure of data is my passion. And so bringing that into an entrepreneurial lens, really applying, do you see the little thumbs up?
Oh,
I don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm distracted.
Yeah,
there. Yeah, but applying the innovation and applying as much collaborative efforts with other industries and professions and careers is really my interest. And so I think we're on the same page, really, which is something that's really fascinating for two very different degrees.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. And is there any kind of like areas specifically like within the next 1 or 2 years that you see yourself like being most excited about, whether it's in like actually related to actuarial science or like the field of science even more broadly?
Statistics.
Okay,
Statistics, 100% everyday statistics is what I'm really looking forward to. When I was really small, so both of my parents are accountants. I'm not sure if I mentioned that yesterday, but both of my parents are accountants. And so when I could just barely spell accountant, that's what I wanted to be initially. But then as I entered high school, I started realizing how much more powerful STEM was becoming, right? At first, STEM was like this thing that you don't associate with sports. It's kind of vague. You can't really associate to it. Again, the same reason why I'm with STEM Fellowship, to try and make it a more known thing. And so for me, STEM just kind of hit like that. And I became really passionate around grade 9 and 10 to start innovating and applying entrepreneurial skills and leadership skills to STEM work. And so for me, I very quickly switched into actuarial science and stats, but my love for finance and for math and for statistics really stayed the same as it was when I wanted to be an accountant. And so, statistics is what I'm really looking forward to in the next 2 years, because I think as I continue to learn and build these skills, I can use it to develop and begin developing at least more complicated data algorithms.
Yeah.
And how about you?
And
where do you see yourself in a year or two?
Yeah, I mean, possibly doing a master's program.
Right.
Waiting to hear back from that.
Good luck.
Yeah, and then I mean, I wanted to ask actually one more question to you. I mean, I know looking back on like my 4 years in the Schulich network, it's been a really great resource and a great resource to meet, different people as well. I was curious to know, like you mentioned stats being like such a big part of, or such a big interest for yourself. Like,
right, yeah.
What's kind of like your big interest within the Schulich network within the next 3 to 4 years to kind of grow your own interest in stats and potentially share it with others?
Yeah, I think it has to be continuing to develop my leadership skills. So leadership is a core part of my identity, and so is statistics. Now, I think from the Schulich network, that's a really good question. I think from the Schulich network, statistics, I can continue improving my statistics skills by seeking out opportunities to the Schulich network. But more particularly, what I want to work on with the Schulich network is continuing to become this audacious, really innovative and entrepreneurially minded leader that uses the stuff that I'm learning at school under the grace of the scholarship and the money that's provided and the network that's provided, and use the skills that I learned in school to the entrepreneurialism I learned with the network to make this formidable combination in the industry. But that's a really good question.
And it's amazing you're already working with Schulich leaders now in STEM fellowship.
Yeah.
And it'll be really cool to see, I think, where that goes in the next few years and whether more Schulichs get involved with that, because it's a really awesome initiative.
Really, I think as like a first year Schulich, from my perspective, and I guess my advice to future SLs, hoping that they watch this podcast and they make it up to this point, is really try and meet other SLs. Like us doing this podcast, like this is an awesome opportunity for us to network as well, become better friends, and really learn more about each other. And the more, like, as I moved from Calgary to come here to the University of Toronto, I kind of landed in the city with nobody that I knew, friends, nobody, nothing. And so, except my parents, they moved with me. But besides that, I knew nobody. And so the SL network was the first source of friends that I found as well. And it was equally innovative and really aspiring people. And surrounding myself, actually, it was in this table with those SLs that I mentioned to you, was the first time I really felt accepted at U of T. And so that's really where it starts. That's my recommendation to future SLs as well.
Cool.
Do you have any future pieces of advice? Or any
advice? I mean, I would just say, like, kind of reiterating the sports stuff we were talking about before. Sports analytics specifically, like, is, again, like, just this field that is benefiting so greatly right now from, like, having people from all different degrees participating in it, whether it's engineering, physics, biology, kinesiology, anywhere. And we have so many people on our Schulich network from different degrees. So I think it would be really cool to see some more folks get involved with sports. And I know I definitely love to share everything I can with other Schulichs who are interested. So yeah, I think that'll be really cool to see if some folks get involved with that.
It would be, because Daniel, I think you've shared a very interesting set of stories today, and it's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
I think that
Likewise.
kind of brings us to the end. Do you have any questions for me? Anything left?
No, I think we're
we're
pretty
solid.
good. Yeah.
Well, that puts us at a wrap for this Schulich Leader Talk. Thank you for watching and have a great day.
Thank you.